Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you here in my parents' basement in the great state of Kansas. And in this video, I wanted to review some movies that I've watched that I haven't reviewed on the channel yet. I kind of haven't done a lot of movie reviews actually in a while. And so I've got a lot of movies uh, kind of saved up to finally talk about my channel. In fact, I got 10 movies I've seen that I haven't talked about yet. Movies that came out this year. Most of them I didn't see in the theater, maybe a couple of them. But let's see. But yeah, can't take too much time here because I need to get through these movie reviews. Try to get them through as quickly as possible. So here we go. So first movie I want to talk about is Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I wasn't really expecting to watch this, but I don't know why. For some reason, I was like, why not? It's probably stupid. I hated the first movie. It was in my top 10 worst movies of the year. The first movie came out. I thought it was a really stupid movie. I didn't really get what was going on. And I heard the ending. I don't know. There's a lot of it that just didn't make any sense to me. A lot of stupid choices made. So I didn't expect much out of this sequel, and I didn't get much out of the sequel, except I think it's actually slightly better than the original. I think it's slightly scarier than the original. There's a new character, this kind of puppet character, marionette character, the new bad guy that they kind of introduced. It does have some nice, scary, like jump scares in there. So it was much better than the animatronics. Like overall, the animatronics are not scary. The big bear and duck animatronics, they just aren't scary. So I don't think it works very well in the movie form. And Josh Hutcherson, I think his name is just not that good of an actor to carry a kind of movie franchise like this. That character, his acting, both movies, not that great. A lot of overacting in some parts that are not great. And yeah, it was not much better than the original, just a little bit. I still give it 1 star out of 5. Yeah, not great. All right, another movie I want to talk about is a movie called Weapons. Talk about movies I normally wouldn't watch, and I only watch this because it's on HBO Max, and I have HBO Max, whatever. And I was like, I heard people talk about this movie. People seem to really like this movie. In fact, recently I've seen it on a lot of top 10 lists. People love this movie as a horror movie, one of the best horror movies of the year, kind of thing. And so I went into it. I'm not a big horror guy, so overall, it just wasn't the movie for me. It isn't the kind of movies I like to watch. But I thought at least I watch it. I can at least know what people are talking about when they talk about weapons. My main thing is the first half of the movie is very boring, very slow moving. It all deals with this plot of these kids disappear. To me, it wasn't that interesting of a plot. I was like, okay. And it felt like a long time through the movie. I was like, are we going to get any answers to why these kids are missing? Or what's behind it? Or what's the mystery? Because there's kind of a mystery. And even horror-wise, it wasn't much horror stuff at all in the first half of the movie. I was like, this is a horror movie? It's just a boring kind of drama about kids missing and nobody knows what happened to them. Well, in the second half of the movie, it does pick up as far as horror aspect. The main villain we don't really meet until I feel like halfway through the movie. And the villain is pretty creepy, I have to admit. And when you find out what basically is a witch, you come across as this kind of witch character who can do spells and tricks and stuff like that, incantations and all this, and can control people and all this, and has them do horrible stuff when she's controlling these people. And yeah, so then the mystery starts getting unraveled the second half of the movie, and that was kind of interesting. I was actually kind of like, oh, okay, this is now starting to make sense what was going on. But it took so long for that to happen that I was so bored with it. It seemed so uneventful that even the second half couldn't really get me back on board because it's still kind of slow moving movie. And then the very last scene, it was so gory. Oh my gosh. One of the most goriest scenes I've ever seen in a movie where I'm like, I don't like this at all. This was kind of gross and disturbing. And again, it's one of those things where it's probably pretty well made. The acting's, pretty good, I would say. There's some interesting things that happen in the movie. But I come across that it's just not a movie that I like. It's not made for someone like me. It's made for someone who loves horror, I guess. And being someone who doesn't like horror, and I found it kind of boring, I'm giving it a 1 star, even though I can understand people liking certain parts of this movie. For me, it was just it was kind of hard movie to get through at times. I had to watch this in segments because I was just getting bored with it. And then when stuff kind of interesting happens, it was a little bit easier to watch. But overall, at the end, I was like, I just don't think I'd ever want to watch this movie ever again or think about it. Anyway, so sorry, Weapons, not great for me. Uh, I guess we continue on the not great route. We can talk about Springsteen. I forget the full title. Something about somebody from nowhere or something. I don't know. Uh, I normally really love biopics, music biopics. In fact, my favorite movie of last year was A Complete Unknown, the music biopic Bob Dylan, played by Timothy Chalamet, which I thought should have won the Oscar for Best Like Picture, Best Actor, Director. I mean, it was such a good movie. I really enjoyed that movie. And so here we're coming up with another music biopic, and this time we're talking about Bruce Springsteen, which is another, very famous rock musician. So it makes sense that this would be another maybe Oscar style movie or something like that. Um, I mean, and my problem is I'm not a big Bruce Springsteen fan, so it's not going to hit me the way like the Bob Dylan movie hit me, as far as like the music segments and like his career. I don't care about as much. So some of that's like, okay, this movie has to be very good in other parts to make me get on board. And I'll be honest, I think this is the worst music biopic I've ever seen in my life. I can't think of a worse one on top of my mind. This movie was extremely boring, and just the the plot or whatever you want to call it was weird for a music biopic because in this movie Bruce Springsteen is like already famous. Like Born to Run, I think already came out, and he's doing tours, and he's just a famous musician, and it's all about him making the next record, and he has this material for this Born in the USA record, which is going to be very popular. In fact, I actually like Born in the USA. It's like the one Bruce Springsteen album I actually like. I don't like a lot of the stuff, but he wants to do the album Nebraska before he does Born USA, even though they all were like, oh, Born USA, this is going to be a huge hit. And he's like, yeah, but I want to really put this Nebraska album out first. I guess that's the whole movie. And so it's so weird because it's all about him being the movie. It seems like every other scene is him in a movie or a music studio working on this Nebraska album and talking to his manager about it and being upset over it. That's like the whole movie. And usually a music biopic is usually you take it, it's more interesting if the person in the bio is like an unknown, he's not famous yet, and then we see how he becomes famous. That's always the most interesting part of a music biopic. It's seeing what was their big break, how did they get break into the industry, then how did they progress to becoming really great and famous and all this other stuff. That's what's interesting about these. This had none of that. It was like he was already famous, so I was like, okay, we don't get that arc of being not famous to famous, which is what you usually get out of these. So that was really weird and a terrible choice in my opinion. And Bruce Springsteen is just so annoying in this movie. He just is mad all the time. It's like they're in a music studio and he doesn't like the way they're recording this song, and he's angry and he's complaining, and it's just complain. And it's just so annoying to watch. And I know at the end they're like, oh, Bruce Springsteen has, it's all about mental health issues, I think. Like Bruce Springsteen has anxiety issues. That's what it's all about. And to this day, he still has anxiety issues, even though he's one of the most famous people in the world, and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, but it's not that interesting of a movie. It's very boring. And I don't know, nothing really interesting happens in it to me. And the ending was nothing. I don't know. It was just a really boring, nothing biopic about Bruce Springsteen. And even the performance I didn't think was that great compared to other performances like Timothy Chalamet as Bob Dylan or Joaquin Phoenix as Johnny Cash. Those are great performances. This, not one of them. Or Freddie Mercury, I forget his name, Rami Malek. Those are great performances. This was okay, but not great. Springsteen, I'm giving it 1 star. I thought this was a terrible movie. And I know my friend Adam loves this movie. It's one of his favorite movies of the year. I'm sorry, I thought it was terrible. So Springsteen, 1 star for me. All right, let's go to The Running Man, a kind of remake of a classic original Arnold Schwarzenegger flick that I kind of grew up watching, on one of those USA or TNT, TBS channels. I was come across an Arnold Schwarzenegger 80s movie and always enjoy them. They're always kind of fun action movies. And I was interested in this. It was one of those things where this could be terrible or it could be kind of interesting if they do it right. And we got Glenn Powell. I'm a big Glenn Powell fan. He's one of my favorite actors working today. I think he's great. And yeah, I was kind of like, okay, this could be a nice, fun action movie. It turned out to be a really stupid movie, I think, overall. And oh gosh, there's so much to talk about, but the ending makes absolutely no sense. I do not understand what happened at the end. It doesn't make any freaking sense. And I hate to spoil too much, but just to tell you what I saw was that Glenn Powell's character is in a plane. The plane's about to crash. It does crash. It gets destroyed, and you're like, okay, is he dead? How did he escape? We didn't see him escape from this plane crash, and you're like, what happened? And the next thing you know, he's at this TV studio killing the main villain, played by Brolin, and you're like, how did he get to the movie studio or the TV studio? How did he not die? I don't think it ever explained how he didn't die. So did that never happen? Was he never in the airplane? Then you start thinking, did this movie even happen? Did any of these scenes ever happen? Was it all a figment of imagination? This movie really plays with what's real and what's not because of AI. In fact, a lot of times they purposely tell you, oh, the bad guys, purposely made this AI version of Glenn Powell and had him say something really terrible to make the audience hate him instead of what he really said. So throughout the movie that you almost can't believe anything that's been happening because of AI. They can make anybody do anything they want, and like in real life, which is kind of scary. But in this movie, I still don't understand what happened at the end. I don't get it. It makes absolutely no sense. I don't know. I hated the ending. The ending was so terrible. And the ending is important. If you got to nail the ending for a good movie, and man, that was a bad ending to the movie. I'm still confused about it. But even then, as an action movie, like there's some okay action in it. There's long parts where there's no action because, especially the first half of the movie, it's like he's supposed to be running. He's on this game show. He's supposed to be running from these hitmen that are trying to kill him and all this. And he has 30 days to survive. So first he just goes to a hotel room. He's hanging out in a hotel room for a while, just hiding out before they find him. And then he's on the run. So I don't know. The movie is a bit long. I think it is quite a bit too long. And I don't think the story is as good as the original. I like the original because the original is, you got Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's an ex-military guy who's falsely imprisoned, and then he's forced onto this game show where he's on the run and they're trying to kill him. But he kills all these, hitmen that are trying to kill him because he's an ex-military guy. So it makes sense. Like, oh, and it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's super buff. So the character in the prison makes sense. He didn't want to be there. He was forced to, but because of his skills, he survives. That's a good story. That's an interesting story. This one, Glenn Powell's supposed to play like a regular, average working Joe, even though he has 6-pack abs. And the average working Joe, I don't think has 6-pack abs and look like Brad Pitt. This guy obviously, isn't your normal looking guy, but he's supposed to be. He's a total movie star, Glenn Powell, but he's supposed to be like this average guy who isn't forced into the Running Man. He volunteers to be in the Running Man to make money, even though nobody ever survives Running Man. It's like a 0% chance of winning. So if you go into it, you're not going to win. You're going to die. Which is, why would you go into something knowing you're going to die? Except I know the whole thing is he's trying to get money for his daughter. They don't have medicine for her, so he's doing this, I guess. But he doesn't really act like he's going to sacrifice life. He really believes he can win it, I guess. Even though, like I said, nobody ever wins, so why would you think you can win it? But yeah, so he volunteers to go in it, and then there's action scenes where he gets attacked, and he kind of just gets lucky and gets out of these situations. Not nearly as interesting as Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is a skilled, military fighter guy, who it makes sense when he's beating up these guys going after him. To me, this movie would be way better if Glenn Powell was an ex-military special forces guy who then gets forced into the Running Man and has to fight for his life and to protect and whatever, and help his kid and his wife or whatever. That would be way better premise, I think, for this movie. I didn't like the way they did it. Glenn Powell, like I said, I usually like him, and he's okay at parts, but sometimes he just yells a lot, and his character is always yelling and giving the middle finger and cursing, and he's supposed to be. But I'm like, oh, he just feels like he's overdoing it. Like, I don't need that much yelling and cursing and middle finger waving like all the time. It just felt overdone and felt forced and didn't feel like it should be part of this character. He should be a little more humble. I feel like a more humbled character. He's a regular average Joe, and he's not acting like a regular average. I don't know. It just, a lot of that I just didn't think worked all that well. And there's a character that is like the main hitman character who's like very, very deadly, and he has a mask on the whole movie. He has a mask. You've seen the trailer. And of course, at one point, he finally takes out the mask and reveals himself, except we've never seen this character before. So when he reveals himself, we're like, who is it? Like, the whole point of revealing yourself is you go, oh, it's that guy from earlier in the movie or from a flashback. I can't believe it's that guy. He revealed himself. That's the whole purpose of revealing yourself. This guy reveals himself and you go, I don't know who he is. I've never seen this guy's face in my life. It makes no sense in the movie. Anyway, so there's stuff like that that I think were terribly done. Overall, yeah, it was really terrible, especially that ending. My gosh, one of the worst endings of the year for me. I'm giving it 2 stars, Running Man. I think I gave it 2.5 maybe in Letterboxd, but the more I think about this movie, the more I hate it. So I'm giving it 2 stars of The Running Man. All right, let's go to a better comedy movie I saw, and that is Spinal Tap 2: The End Continues. I'm not the biggest Spinal Tap fan, and it's funny. That has almost cult status as a comedy, and I get there are funny moments. I think the funniest moments in both that one and this one maybe are the times when Rob Reiner, as the director, is interviewing the band members, and they're having these, improv conversations where they're just great improv comedy between the two. Those are some of the funniest moments in both of them. The whole overall story I don't really care about that much, and I hate the music, and that's what hurts both movies for me somewhat, especially the first one. And part of it's funny, I know, like there's a song called Big Bottom, and I think there's a song called Sex Farm, and it's supposed to be funny because they're like, these are horrible song names, and it's this really terrible 80s rock era that I absolutely hate the music. But anyways, and I'm a big fan of mockumentaries. I love especially Best in Show and A Mighty Wind are the 2 best mockumentaries ever made, which has a lot of the members here like Christopher Guest in it, and maybe Michael McKean or whatever. Anyways, and Harry Shearer, I guess, as well. But just know Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, which are the best parts of those movies. But anyways, yeah, so it's weird. I'm not the biggest fan of Spinal Tap, even though I'm a big fan of mockumentaries. But I had to watch this. This is interesting. They do a sequel, like 40 years after, 30, 40 years after the original. It's crazy. But I still had some fun with this movie. I still thought it was pretty funny. I love this mockumentary style. I love the kind of improv humor style. And I think the 3 main actors still do a pretty good job of coming up with funny stuff on the fly through these conversations and stuff like that. I especially love the cameos by Paul McCartney and Elton John. I thought were great. Especially Paul McCartney when he comes in and he like comes in to jam with them and he questions like Michael McKean's character, how he plays a song, and then Michael McKean's like hates Paul McCartney's like talking crap about him because he questioned him in the studio. There's some funny moments like that I really like, and just the fact that Paul McCartney was there. Elton John was great at the end, at the concert at the end. They do have this big concert, which was kind of fun, and the ending was hilarious. It was a great ending. Unlike Running Man, I love the way this movie ended. It was so funny, and the fact that Elton John was involved was really funny as well, and all that. So, yeah, I wouldn't say it's like one of the funniest movies I've ever seen, but it made me laugh enough that I'll actually give this a good review, and I enjoyed it enough to recommend it and give it 3 out of 5 stars overall. So didn't love it, but I thought it was good enough. I would say it's worth checking out, especially if you like the first one. And also crazy because I watched this movie maybe 3 days after Rob Reiner died, which was and I'm not talking about him on this. Maybe some other time I can talk about Rob Reiner. Uh, but man, what a tragic. I mean, that's so sad and tragic the way he died. That's the shocking part of the whole thing. It's just like, oh my God, like, it's one thing to die of natural causes, another thing to get murdered by your own son. That is insane. So I'm very sad about it. In fact, even though I'm not like emotionally attached to Rob Reiner really in any way, except there are some movies I absolutely love. Like I said, I'll talk about maybe at some point about his movie career. But right now, I'll just say, yeah, it's kind of sad seeing him because this is maybe the last movie he ever got to be a part of, Rob Reiner, because he was part of the original Spinal Tap, and then he got to be in the sequel playing the same character, the director of the documentary who's interviewing the members. And like I said, those are some of the best moments of the movie when it's Rob Reiner and like Christopher Guest. Like those are some great moments. You get some of the classic lines like "This goes to 11" and all that, in the original, and even this one, it's great. So yeah, so it's sad, but it was interesting seeing Rob Reiner for the last time, going, man, just after all this terribleness, and now I'm watching him in this movie and go, man, maybe the last time I ever see Rob Reiner anyway. So that was interesting to watch. But anyways, yeah. So Spinal Tap 2, good movie. Um, all right. Catching up with some movies that I just saw today, actually. I think I kind of binged some movies today and yesterday, I guess, kind of combined. One of the movie's called Tron Ares. And, oh, I forgot about another movie. I'll get back to that. But Tron Ares, I'll talk about that right now. Tron Ares, I have no idea what was going on in this movie. This was one of the most confusing movies I've watched this year. And I like Tron Legacy, actually. I thought it was a really cool, like, sci-fi action movie. And I like sci-fi for the most part, except for if it's sci-fi that's very confusing, then I don't like it. There's some sci-fi I can watch and totally get in on the story, like The Matrix, Star Wars, whatever, There's lots of Star Trek. There's a lot of sci-fi I love. But then every once in a while I'll get into something like Tron Ares and I just go, I don't know what the plot is. If you ask me what is the plot of this movie, I would go, I have no freaking idea what the plot is or what's going on here, except I think Jared Leto plays Ares, which is this computer program that somebody made. He's supposed to be like the ultimate fighting machine, which at first I was like, why would you pick Jared Leto? Jared Leto is kind of a girly man. I mean, he won an Oscar for playing a guy trying to pretend to be a girl. And he did a good job. And a lot of his movies, he's just very pretty. He has just a very pretty face for a guy. And it's like, so this is not the guy I would hire to play this, ultimate fighter computer program thing. So I don't know. To me, it was bad casting. I was like, Jared Leto. Like, I picked someone a little more masculine than Jared Leto. No offense to Jared Leto, but he's a good actor. It just doesn't fit this role. Anyways, besides that, yeah, this movie, I was just totally lost about what was going on. He starts fighting with the people that programmed him. I think he like grows a conscience, I guess, even though he's a computer program. He figures out morality and like the right thing to do and turns against the other programs or something. And he has a big fight scene with this one lady who's also part of the program, I guess. If I'm not making sense, it's because I don't understand what I'm talking about. But there's a big fight scene at the end, and then she disappears for some reason. I don't know. I just do not know what was going on. And therefore, it was one of the worst movies of the year for me. I'm giving it 1 star, just like the others. I will only say like the motorcycle chasing was kind of fun. It was, very well done. And, they have that, red thing that goes behind it and you can't, it's like a wall if you hit it. There's some interesting things there. Visually, there's some interesting things maybe, but story-wise, I do not know what happened. Don't know. Never. So boring to try to get through when you don't understand what's going on. So yeah, terrible, terrible movie, Tron Ares. Another movie I forgot to mention is a movie that came on HBO Max recently called One Battle After Another. This is a movie that's been talked about quite a bit during this award season. It's getting a lot of nominations for Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, and eventually Oscars. I'm sure it'll get a bunch of nominations. Critics absolutely love this movie. This is on top tens all over the place, getting rave reviews. In fact, I would say probably right now it's probably going to win Best Picture at the Oscars. That's the way it's trending. People seem to love this movie, and knowing kind of what the plot was, I knew I'd probably hate this movie because it did seem like a very liberal political movie against everything I believe in. But I had to watch it because I knew it was going to probably win the Oscar. So I always like to watch those movies. So I kind of know what the big movies of the year are. So I watched it. Yeah, I hated it. Terrible, terrible movie. And a lot of it's because the main characters are so unlikable. Some of the most unlikable main characters I've ever seen in a movie. And they're supposed to be like our protagonists, our heroes, our guys that we're supposed to root for, I think. But I couldn't root for them. They're horrible. They were liberal terrorists that were robbing places and doing illegal activities and against, police and military and all that. So I absolutely hated these main characters. Couldn't get behind them. Besides them being kind of selfish at times and jerky, and like Leonardo DiCaprio's character is like a big drug addict, and he kind of messed up his brain. He even says, "I messed up my brain with drugs," and he's a bit of a loser. These are losers, and these are our main characters. I was like, I cannot get on board with this, and especially with the fact that they're terrorists. I can never get behind terrorists or terrorist acts like this, and I think Hollywood wants you to be for the terrorists, and I can't. I can't be for terrorists, and that's what I felt about this movie. Like, I hate these characters so much, and following them is just And it takes about 30 minutes in the movie before I remember I was watching it going, we haven't even got like the title card, of what this movie is, and it was like 30 minutes of the movie. I feel like, and finally, I remember I was watching it going, I think right now is about the time to put one battle after another, and sure enough, boom, one battle after another. They named the movie, and I'm like, I'm like 30 minutes into this movie. And finally, we were like getting into the plot of the movie. It felt like the first 30 minutes was just pre-plot movie, just to introduce characters and stuff. Yeah, so I don't know. I didn't care for the story. Didn't care for the characters. I didn't care for any of it. It was a little too long, a little too boring at parts. It wasn't as funny as I thought it would be because when you watch the trailer, it looks like a comedy. It was weird. I remember the first time seeing a trailer when I was watching a movie, and I was like, what is this movie? I don't get what this movie is. Is it a comedy? Is it... I don't know. It just felt very weird. And I remember thinking, this movie looks terrible. And I remember every movie I saw had this trailer for one battle after another. And every time I saw a trailer, I said to myself, this looks like a terrible movie. This is going to bomb probably. I just can't believe this trailer looks so terrible. And then when people start reviewing it and going, oh, this movie's amazing, it's going to get a bunch of Oscars, I'm like, are they watching the same movie that I saw the trailer? Like, really, this movie is the movie that's going to win the Oscars? Like, I'm totally, flabbergasted that this is the big Oscar movie. And that's before I watched it. And I watched it, and I'm still like, I don't get why this is such an Oscar, But I thought the same thing about Nora won last year. I cannot believe that won Best Picture. Everything, all at once. I can't believe that won Best Picture. Like, all the Best Pictures lately, I'm like, these are horrible movies. Why are these horrible movies win Best Picture? So the fact that I hate this movie probably means it'll win Best Picture because I hate the Best Picture winners now. And that probably goes for this. I should mention Sean Penn. Sean Penn, his character was so terrible and gross. There's some gross moments I don't even want to talk about, but some gross moments I felt very gross and icky about. And I was like, I just hate all of this. I hate and you're supposed to hate Sean Penn, but I hated him so much that I didn't like hating him. I just hated hating him and hated having him. Every time he was in the movie, I was like, I hate this character so much. He ruins every scene. And Sean Penn is like supposed to probably win the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. And I thought he was nothing in this movie. I don't get, he's a one-note character. I don't know why everybody's talking about Sean Penn. Anyways, enough of this movie. Terrible. 1 star. I'm getting close to the end here. I guess I'll go to Elio. Finally caught up with it today. Actually, I finished watching it on Disney Plus, and it's another movie. I forget this is Pixar or Disney, whatever. The movies have not been very good for Pixar and Disney lately. They've been pretty bad animation movies for the most part. And so when I watched the trailer for this, I didn't seem that interesting of a movie, and I've seen a lot of bad reviews. I don't think it did very well in the box office. I might be wrong, but So I was not expecting much out of this movie. I'd almost say this movie was maybe a little bit better than I expected because I expected this to be like a really horrible movie. It wasn't horrible. It was just not that interesting of a movie overall. The Elio character is not that interesting of a character, I would say. In fact, I kind of didn't like the character at first because the character was a bit of a jerk to his aunt and to other kids. He was a bit of a jerk. In fact, he kind of gets beat up because he kind of is a jerk to these kids. And I was kind of on the kid's side. I was like, yeah, Elio deserves to be beat up. He's kind of a jerk. And I didn't like the way he treated his aunt and all this. And he just wanted to go into space. And, because he thinks he belongs somewhere else in space because he's, it's that kind of thing. Anyways, but I will say the movie got much better once he got into space and he met Gordon, this alien creature, and they kind of strike up a friendship, and a lot of the plot revolves around them and what's going on with their parents and stuff. Anyways, and all this. I did like the two characters together. It was definitely much funner when they were there together, and the plot was much more interesting with them in it. And I would even say at the end, it was actually kind of heartwarming. And the friendship there, plus his relationship with his aunt, kind of got better at the end. Elio himself actually became just a much better character. He became nicer. It was almost like a different character altogether. It's like, which makes me think they didn't know how to write this character because it's like he was this at the beginning. I know it's like he had a character arc, he got some redemption, but it was maybe a little too quickly of a redemption where I'm like, I don't believe he'd go this far in such a short time. But it's good because the character needed to be better because he was such a jerk at the beginning. So it was nice for that character to have kind of a redemption arc, I guess, in some senses. And I like the relationship between him and his aunt got better. So that was nice. That was sweet. At the end, there's some good moments there. Even the villain is like very like just wants to kill people. And at the end, he's like, "Oh, I forgive everybody." And it's like, wow, that was quick. Your forgiveness, since you were really like violent throughout the whole movie. So there's a lot of this stuff that gets resolved a little too quickly, I think. And I didn't think the animations were very good. I thought the human characters didn't look very human-like, or not as well as they have been in other movies. I don't know. I have a thing about that. I like movies where the human characters look interesting or good or whatever. So I didn't think the animation was particularly that great in the movie. Again, the movie got better at the end, but I still would give it a 2.5 out of 5 stars, which is a light not recommend. I still wouldn't say it's a great or a good, animated movie. Compared to Zootopia 2, I thought it was a much better movie, for instance. So it's not one I would check out personally if you didn't have to. So that's Elio. I just got done watching this movie, Freakier Friday, which is on Disney Plus. I just finished that before I did this review, and I wasn't expecting to like it, and I didn't like it. It was about what I expected it to be. It was a comedy that wasn't funny, and the characters were extremely annoying. Especially what's her name, Jamie Lee Curtis. I think was such a terrible actress in this movie. Really terrible performance. In fact, most movies I see her now, I think she's a terrible actress. Really annoying. I don't understand how she won an Oscar. She's not that good of an actress, in my opinion. I thought she was terrible in this movie. Yeah, it was just yeah. That's about my review. It was not funny and it was annoying as heck. And I actually thought the first Freaky Friday wasn't that bad. It was still kind of a stupid movie, but it made me laugh. When I think about the first movie, I think, yeah, it's a remake, of course, of an old movie with Jodie Foster, but overall, I thought it was actually kind of funny, the first movie. This movie, not only was it not funny, it was cringy, not funny. So it's another 1 star for me on this one. All right, last movie I'm going to talk about because it's the best movie on my list, and that is Nobody 2, with Bob Odenkirk, a sequel to the first Nobody movie. It's funny, I was not a fan of the first Nobody movie, mostly because I couldn't believe Bob Odenkirk as like this kick-ass, secret agent guy or whatever, that could fight people, and get into big fights and all that. And nothing against Bob Odenkirk, he does the best he can. He got into good enough shape and all this stuff, but it was like he's trying to be like John Wick, but I was like he's never going to be John Wick. he's never going to be Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is an action star. Bob Odenkirk is a comedic actor and writer. He's not an action star guy. So, but I guess that's the appeal of the movie, is that this guy that doesn't look like an action star is really good at action, I guess. But I don't know. I wasn't as big on the first movie, but I really like this movie. I don't know. Something about this movie really, it was very over the top, violent action scenes, a little over, like I said, over top, meaning it was a little silly at times, but I had a lot of fun with it. And I would say the action scenes were decent, not as good as a John Wick movie or Bullet Train. I think I have better action scenes and all this, but they're still really fun. And Odenkirk, I kind of found myself really liking his character, because he doesn't seem like a guy that would be this, badass secret agent guy, but he just seems like a normal guy. And so he's supposed to be like this normal guy that you can't believe, and he's believable, because you wouldn't believe he would be this guy. He does look like just a normal family guy. And I like the whole movie is him taking his family on vacation. Hey, let's have a normal vacation, And then he gets involved with all this hijinks of these bad guys on this vacation spot. And then he ends up killing a bunch of people very violently. I don't know. I kind of liked the premise. I thought it was fun. And I thought a lot of scenes were very well done. Odenkirk, his character, he's very expressionless, but yet it worked for the character, I think. And I kind of felt for him. He really wanted the best. It was like, I heard someone say it's kind of like National Lampoon's Vacation, except, lots of murdering. It is like that. It was basically like Family Vacation, except a lot of action scenes and stuff like that. I thought it kind of worked for me for that. It's funny. I think this was a different director than the first movie, and maybe that's why I liked the movie so much. I think it was directed a lot better than that first movie. Also, like Christopher Lloyd. Christopher Lloyd was great, also, as the grandpa, who evidently was like an action guy himself when he was younger. But he had some great moments in this movie as well. Two moments I really liked. One, there's a scene where he sees a kid in trouble, and he walks out because he doesn't want to get involved. But then he decides to come back because his conscience couldn't do it. So he went back to, take out these bad guys to save this kid. And at first, the camera is outside the building, so all we hear is the fighting, the shooting, and you're watching, going, oh, okay, there's an action scene, but we're on the outside, we're not seeing it. At first, I was like, oh no, we're gonna miss this action scene. I hate when movies do that. I was like, here's the action scene, and then we don't see it. But the camera moves into the building, so it was a really cool shot where the camera, like in one take kind of thing, goes into the building, and then we're in the midst of the action is already going on, and we see some of the action. I thought that was actually a really cool shot, and I thought it was really well done. The other thing I like is there's one scene where he gets into a fight with these goons on a duck boat ride, and he's like 4 or 5 guys fight him. They don't know they think he's just a regular guy, and then they find out no, he can fight, and so he's fighting them. But then he gets knocked off the boat, and you're thinking, oh, they knocked him off. What's going to happen? But I love how he climbs back, because you think maybe they killed him, or he's going to drown in the water. But no, you see him climb back in the boat, and then he beats the crap out of all 5 guys. I thought that was a great kind of cool moment, action hero moment. I'm like, okay, I can get on board with this. But yeah, there's other things to talk about. But overall, it was a fun, kind of dumb action movie. I was in for it. Sometimes I'm not. Some of these movies, though, I'm really in for the silly action, because I love action movies, and I love comedy. It has a bit of comedy in it as well. And a funny ending was actually pretty funny. I really enjoyed the ending as well. Over the top bad guys, yes, I can go for it. Give it to me. This is actually one of my favorite movies of the year. Nobody 2. 4 stars for me. So. All right. I know I was trying to go through that quickly. It almost took 40 minutes, but that's a lot of movies to try to review in one video, to try to catch up on what movies I've done. Right now, I've seen 42 movies that I've reviewed on my Letterboxd app. I'm trying to get to 50 movies, and then I'm going to do my top 10 movies and top worst movies. So I'm getting closer to that 50. Once I get there, I'm excited to talk about my favorite and worst movies of the year. Besides that, thank you so much for watching this video. Please tell me what you thought about these 10 movies I'm talking about, what ones you liked, what you didn't like. Love to hear anybody's thoughts on that. And besides that, thank you so much for watching the video. Thanks so much for liking it, and thank you to all my subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate you all, and I hope you have a good day.